Since 1998, Stamps.com has been an indispensable tool for nearly 1 million businesses. Stamps.com brings the services of the U.S. Postal Service and UPS shipping right to your computer. Whether you're an office sending invoices, a side hustle Etsy shop, or a full-blown warehouse shipping out orders, Stamps.com will make your life easier. All you need is a computer and a standard printer. No special supplies or equipment. Within minutes, you're up and running, printing off official postage for any letter, any package, anywhere you want to send. And you'll get exclusive discounts on postage and shipping from USPS and UPS. Once your mail is ready, you just schedule a pickup or drop it off. No traffic, no lines. Cut the confusion out of shipping with Stamps.com's new Rate Advisor tool. You can compare shipping rates and timelines and easily find your best option. Save time and money with Stamps.com. There's no risk, and with my promo code POD, that's P-O-D, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. No long-term commitments, no contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in POD. That's Stamps.com, promo code POD. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again. The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of I Had to Say It. Today we're going to do things a little differently. I've been thinking things over a lot lately. That's the whole point of the show, is things I'm thinking about, things that are on my mind. And today we are going to discuss briefly some things that may change a little bit going forward with the show. One of the first things I want to do is, normally I do this stuff at the end of the episode, but I was reading something about metrics and all the other things, and want to take the time to say, if you enjoy what I'm doing, if you like the show, if you want to support me without actually having to, spend any money, if you could leave a rating, leave a review. I'm not going to necessarily be one of the people saying, give me a 5-star. 5 stars are awesome if you think I deserve it, but, if not, feedback's always good. Let me know what I'm doing right. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. And that will help drive the metrics. That will help spread the show. Now, I've been doing this over a year now, a year and some change, and I've spent a lot of that time not really worrying about growth or about pushing the show or saying, share it with your friends, share it with people you think need to hear it. And by and wide, a lot of people that need to hear it aren't going to find it on their own because it's going to hurt their little feelings, but people need to hear some of this stuff. Originally, I started the show with the idea of this was going to be a check valve for me. This was going to be my therapy. This was going to be screaming into the void so I didn't have my head explode. But over the course of the last year and some change, and talking to other people that have actually listened to the show, and I've come to realize this stuff, I had to say it, but the shit needs to be heard too. And so I'm going to ask you guys, please, spread the word a little bit. If you know somebody that you think would appreciate it, if you know somebody that wouldn't appreciate it but needs to fucking hear it, if you can think of a person that particularly fits the mold on one of these things that I'm talking about, and you think they need to be told, but you don't want to do it for whatever personal reasons, you don't want to fuck up your relationship with it, coach it to them in a way where it's like, you need to listen to this guy. Can you believe what a dick he is? And maybe we can change some minds and get some people's heads out of their collective asses. So, in my efforts to become a better podcaster and be better at what I'm doing, I have found out that you're supposed to put at the front of the show, because that's where most people are still listening. So here's my at the front of the show thing. Please tell your friends, spread the word. I finally figured out that I actually do want the show to grow. I want the audience to grow. I want to be heard at this point. The last year or so has been good. It's been allowed me time to polish things, to figure things out, to figure out where I want to go with this. And now it's time to start making some shifts. And there's still a lot I have to figure out. I still don't understand the whole hashtags and the SEO stuff and all the front-end stuff for appearing in search engines and all the other stuff. So if anybody happens to be particularly good at that and wants to kind of point me in the right direction, shoot me an email or something. Go to the website, I had to say it, podcast.com, fill out the contact form, say, Aaron, this is how you do this stuff, dummy. And I promise I pick up things pretty quick if somebody's good at explaining things. So that's out of the way now. So let's get on to what I actually wanted to talk about. There's been a lot going on in the world these last few days, and one of the sort of elephant in the room situations is the employees of Southwest Airlines have decided that they're effectively going to strike and say we're not going to comply with this vaccine mandate. And we've kind of touched on in the past, everybody knows I'm not staunchly anti-vax, but I am pro it's your body, it's your right to decide what goes in it and what doesn't. And the lengths people will go to try and justify forcing this on people is getting kind of fucking ridiculous, particularly in the facts of the data keeps changing. The science that people keep pointing to try and trust keeps being wrong. And the simple fact of the matter is this was a rushed production of a vaccine to quote unquote curb the spreading of this virus that flat out doesn't work. If you get the vaccine, you can still spread it. If you get the vaccine, you can still catch it. Now they're saying you have to have the vaccine because the vaccine mitigates your chances of having a severe case. And see, that's where I have a problem. If you've admitted that the vaccine you're trying to force on people is not going to stop the spread of the virus and is not going to stop you from catching the virus, it only mitigates how bad you're going to suffer, that's really where it stops being anybody's fucking business but your own. You have the right to say, this is not going to stop the spread, it's not going to stop me from catching it, I'll take my chances on whether or not I get really sick or not sick at all or just a little sick. There are way more people that have gotten it and survived and been fine. And there's so much going on with this shit. And so many of the far left people that less than 2 years ago were bitching and talking about power to the people and the working class this and the working class that and hit them in their wallets are now outraged that the pilots are doing exactly that and hitting Southwest in the fucking wallet to prevent them from forcing something on them that they do not agree with. And, for better or worse, this country was founded on certain principles, one of which being that realistically, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, nobody has the fucking right to tell you what to do. And we've really lost sight of that over the years, and generally the most egregious affronts to people having a right and people having a choice have been done in the name of, well, this is for your own fucking good. And the problem with that is there's a whole lot of condescension in there, and it's a whole lot of saying, I know what's good for you better than you do. And I don't think that's fair or right. So that's where I stand on that. The same people that were trying to justify the looting of stores and the burning down of small businesses and the pillaging of people's property as a political movement or a statement against oppression or any of this other shit are now trying to vilify people who are using much less destructive. There has not been a single plane destroyed. There's not been anything stolen from the airlines. These people simply decided to get together and say, we're not gonna do it. It's a strike. It's part of the American way of doing things. Back when unions were still something that had some sway and they weren't just special interest groups and an excuse to skim some money off the workers, which that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But the simple fact of the matter is, it's not comparable, and I'm sick of hearing, it's only been going on for a couple days, and we've already got people making that association that, it's just wrong that people are doing this. They should just get the shot and sit down and shut up. No, they're doing something much less socially harmful in both the short and long runs than burning down stores and destroying businesses and destroying people's livelihood and people's lives because of something happening that they didn't agree with. So I guess the Cliff Notes thing of this is, if you were any one of the people who tried to justify the riots, and yes, that's what they fucking were. It was looting and riots. The protests I'm fine with. That's every American's right and responsibility. If you don't agree with something, you have the right to go out and protest, as long as you're not fucking up anybody else's stuff. That's the end of it. It's not a real debatable matter. So if you were trying to justify those riots and call them anything other than that, you need to shut the fuck up right now, okay? And a lot of this probably doesn't necessarily go to people that are going to be listening to the show on a regular basis. It's really aimed more at the participation trophy generation. You puling, soft-ass people need to shut the fuck up and let the grown-ups handle things for right now. You need to stop thinking that you know better than everybody else. You fucking don't. You don't live in the real world. All you sanctimonious, self-righteous, woke motherfuckers that seem to think you've got the world figured out and you've got everything in the palm of your hand because you have figured out these are the injustices. These are the things we need to stand up for. This is what we're going to do because this is what's right, and we're going to show you guys, and we're going to make you listen, and we're going to cancel you if you don't agree with us. And the thing about it is, as woke and as smart and as on the stick and as ahead of the curve as you assholes think you are being manipulated, coerced, and controlled more so than anybody else. You're so busy looking for shit to be insulted about, things to be upset about, things to be angry about, reasons to be fucking offended so you can justify your own ire and your own shit behavior, that you will never be able to move forward. It's distraction and division writ large. You think you're doing it in a righteous manner, but it's realistically fucking pointless. Moving forward, you try and live better. You don't accomplish that by pretending it didn't happen or erasing it from existence. That is not how these things work. It doesn't benefit anyone. And trying to get all bent out of shape about these things, instead of moving forward and focusing on the future, is counterproductive. And it's what the people that are actually running things want. They don't want us focused on the bullshit they're doing to us in the name of, they tell you over and over again, this is for the benefit of other people, but by and wide, people aren't benefiting. A few select assholes are benefiting. The elite are benefiting. And for a long time, I tried to avoid using the term because it just sounds a little too tinfoil hattish. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you look at our social structure, particularly in America, because let's face it, that's where I live, that's where my frame of reference is, and that's where a lot of these fucking problems are, is the United States of America. The middle class is dying out, and it's under attack. And the people on the bottom, the people who their parents were middle class, but now they're bitching that they don't have the opportunities and they can't get ahead because they're being fucked over and the system needs to come through and fix it. The reason you're being fucked over is because of the system. It is because of politicians and big businesses riding hand in hand and going along and legislating and ruling in a way that only benefits them, and telling you they're doing it for your own good. They have effectively destroyed the middle class, which is not a new circumstance. This happens in every society, every culture, where there is an elite class and there is a servant class, a subservient bottom class, a lower class. You know why all these people that are screaming for socialists can't find anything to point at where it actually fucking worked? Because it's not meant to work that way. And yet we've still got these assholes who think that's the answer and that's the future. We've got people who want to justify shit behavior and irresponsible actions by saying it's a matter because 500 years ago this happened or 200 years ago that happened. And instead of saying, look, this is an irresponsible asshole who's being a shitty human being, and they need to be taken to task for it. Instead of bitching about this is wrong because the system's made to fuck over a certain group of people and that's bad for them. And I'm not saying the system doesn't fuck over certain groups of people, but it's not done with the intention that all you self-righteous assholes think of. It's not about picking on one group of people. It's about controlling the rest of the groups of people. It just constantly keeps happening. In case you haven't noticed, a lot of the stuff about, oh, well, here's all these differences, and here's all these injustices, and here's all these people that are being shit on that you need to feel sorry for. The people who are putting that information in front of you, by and wide, aren't actually doing a fucking thing about remedying the situation. They are lining their own pockets. They are running the society into the ground. And in the meantime, through manipulation, through control, and just through indoctrination, they're telling you, assholes, that you are right. You are just. You are good. Your indignation is justified and righteous. And it's something you should be proud of. You should be proud of being a miserable fuck. They don't tell you any real answers or any solutions. It's all feel good, here's something shiny, be easily distracted answers. And at the end of the day, nothing changes. Poor people are still going to be shit on by rich people. It doesn't matter what way you're swinging. It doesn't matter what your orientation is. It doesn't matter what color you are. You're either broke or you're paid. It's real fucking simple. And the rich people have no interest in taking care of the broke people beyond the capacity in which a farmer takes care of his livestock. That's all you are to these people. The ones that are steering you, the ones that are pointing you, the ones that are telling you how upset you should be and how rotten other people have. They're doing that so you don't notice how shitty you have it. They're doing that so they don't see how shoddily you are being treated. It's a lot easier that's why there is a stratification in how people are treated and how these things are going. Because if you don't have somebody that you can look at and say their situation is more fucked than my situation, you start analyzing your own situation and realizing how fucked you're being. That is the entire point. That's how this works. And people have been saying it for a long time. A lot of people were called out and told they were conspiracy theorists, told they were crazy, told they were wrong. And without getting into the realms of, aliens are secretly manipulating the government, or there is a set number of families that control all the riches in the world. And to be honest, I'm a lot more willing to buy into the concept of a cadre of elite, ultra, super wealthy people who don't even register and live in the shadows and manipulate things, because their families have probably been doing it since they were the first ones to figure out if you get the slightly higher cave in the mountain, the guys in the lower cave get eaten by the fucking bears first, and the bears get full before they get to your cave, and you get to live out the winter peacefully. So, yes, there is societal stratification, and it's never, ever, ever going to fucking go away. And by encouraging the destruction of the middle class in the name of supposedly trying to elevate the lower class, what you're actually doing is widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Increasing the amount of have-nots does not reduce the amount of haves. It just makes the haves have it fucking better. So maybe, go try and find an economics book written, say, late 60s, early 70s, that don't necessarily look to it for social cues or proper moral structure or any of that shit, but just the basic concepts of economics. And just try and wrap your head around the basic understandings of what constitutes wealth, how it's distributed, and why you fucking idiots are walking off a cliff because you're told that carrot on the stick is going to be yours if you just catch it, and you're so busy looking at the fucking carrot that you don't see the drop off you're about to go over. And that's as good a place as any. We'll take a break, insert common knowledge at this point. I'm going to stick in an ad for another podcast. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If I'm sticking their ad here, I think you should go listen to them. This is an actual endorsement from Aaron. If you like me, this is something I like. You need to go check it out. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Looking for a new podcast? Check out the Infectious Groove Podcast. My name is Russ, and I host the show along with Michelle and Kyle. Every Monday, the three of us bring you music news and tell you our jammy jams, so you'll always have new music to check out. The Infectious Groove Podcast discusses music from nearly every decade and genre while openly displaying our passion for music you need to hear. On top of that, we have a thought-provoking main topic of discussion every week to get you thinking, discussing, and sharing music. We also include interviews with the music stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms. Subscribe and listen to the Infectious Groove Podcast on your favorite podcast platform today.
All right, everybody, so thanks for listening to that. I actually chose that ad because this week they're having their 100th episode Infectious Grooves is a fantastic show. I've plugged them multiple times. Go check them out already. Alright, so for the second half of this episode, or it's not really half, it's going to be much shorter because I said my piece on all the idiots that are out here running the country into the ground for their own benefit. And I'm not going to dwell on it or harp on it anymore this episode. I'm sure it'll come up again because I don't see it changing in the next couple of weeks. So going forward, I'm sure it'll be around. But the second thing I wanted to touch on briefly is after this comes out will actually be the day after Columbus Day, which a lot of people have decided that, we're taking it back. We're giving it to where it belongs. We're calling it Indigenous Peoples Day. And I don't really have a problem with that because Columbus didn't discover shit. He happened to sail across the ocean, made it across without dying, made it back without dying, and reported on what he found. Now, I don't take any issue with saying, we want to honor the indigenous people that were here, and this kind of ties back into my whole dwelling on the past thing instead of just learning from it and moving forward. And there were really a lot of genuine fucking atrocities that were perpetrated upon the indigenous people of this country. But here's the catch. Here's where, I'm going to probably frost a couple asses, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's done. Unless you are going to pack up all your shit and leave the fucking country and somehow convince every other person that doesn't have any indigenous blood in their system to do the exact same thing and go back to Europe, which, I hate to tell you this, had all the atrocities and all the bloodshed and all the horrible shit that happened here, happened there too. Human history is rife with marauding tribes, people forcing their beliefs on the people that happen to be wherever what they needed at the time were. It was a survival thing. It was survival of the fittest. It was we won and you lost. And the idea that somehow you can make things right for shit that happened before your great-grandfather was born, you can't make the past what it's not. You can't change that. You can't make things right. All you can do is try and be better and not fuck over people going forward. When it comes to indigenous people of this continent, and it's not just the United States that's guilty of it, they got shit on and treated terribly across the board. And a lot of people will say, well, we have to do this because it's what's fair and it's what's right. Fair doesn't figure into the fucking equation. And at this point, treating the descendants of those people fair and equal and right is way more important than trying to make up for something that is done and over with. Because realistically, we will never be able to make it up. We can never change what happened. We can never undo the past. There's no way to justify it or balance it or to get those scales where they're hanging even. And if that's the approach you're going to take, stopping and saying, this is how we need to make things right for the indigenous people. If you want to do that and you don't want it to be some sort of separation issue, some sort of differentiation issue, and instead of just seeing people as humans moving forward and treating each other all decently and equally, where do you stop? At what point? What are the qualifications that all of a sudden make you say, okay, this is where we no longer have to recompense the past. We no longer have to worry about what our ancestors did. What's the cutoff? What's the finish line? What's the end game? That's the problem I have with this mentality of saying we need to fix what was done in the past. We need to make this right. You fucking can't. That's the end of it. You can't change the past. There's literally nothing you can do that's going to actually happen that will make things right. What you do is you learn from the past, you don't repeat the past, and moving forward you treat people fucking better. And instead of preaching all this divisive, hateful shit and trying to blame one group or another group for how their ancestors treated another set of ancestors, we need to start finding common ground. We need to start finding things that we can all agree on, things we can all get along about. We need to start realizing that all this constant, these people are guilty of that, and these people are guilty of that, and you don't even know that you're wrong in your mindset because this is just, it's in how you were raised and all this other shit. No, stop pointing at the past. Start pointing We need to be better going forward. We need to treat each other as fucking equals. Not, oh, you got fucked over, so you deserve any sort of benefit that doesn't go across the board. People deserve to be treated as equals. People deserve to be treated like people. Gay, straight, other, man, woman, child, black, white, brown, purple, yellow, pink, red, orange, fucking green. I don't care. None of that shit is relevant when it comes to a person's worth. Are you a decent human being? Are you a productive human being? Are you a useful human being? Or are you a parasitic sack of shit that walks around and just makes other people fucking miserable? Those are my criteria. I don't care what you do, who you love, what you look like, who you pray to, who you worship. I don't care about any of that shit as long as it doesn't cause you to treat other people shitty. And that's the mentality we need to try and encourage. That's how we need to be if we're ever going to get any fucking where in this world. One of the things I was reading in my general pursuit of keeping new information in my head, I was reading an article, and it really has nothing to do with this other than a sort of a tangentially at best. And I was reading something about simulation theory and proposals to test whether we're actually living in a simulation, and it tied into why people would want to simulate us and all. And one of the more solid arguments as to why this probably is not a simulation that we're living in kind of ties back into this. And the odds are, as a species, we would have to evolve to the point where we have the technological resources to simulate humanity. And anybody that plays video games knows they do a lot of tricks, and we have the most powerful computers and entertainment systems at our disposal from ever, at least ever that we know of. I mean, who knows what happened if there were societies that got advanced and collapsed before us, or got advanced and fucked off. But the general theory, where this is all coming from, is the odds are that we're never going to make it to that level because humanity's inherent divisiveness and self-destructive tendencies are going to stop us from ever achieving that level. Or if we do finally achieve the level where we have that kind of computational power to simulate all these things, all the things that are going on, because the theory is to have that much resources available, it would have to be the most advanced computer ever, because like in a video game, for example, when the stuff that's just off screen is not on the screen, it's loading and buffering, and so things would have to be... there's just so much computation involved for everything to be activating simultaneously, and all these. There's a whole lot to it. It's more than I can really explain without dedicating a lot of time to it. And I'll probably get a whole bunch of shit wrong because it's not something I'm really deeply involved in. It's just something I thought was interesting. I was reading, but anyway, I digress. Point being, a lot of these things that people are getting so hung up on and are trying to use to justify their own shitty self-serving behaviors. And I'm sorry, but I feel like a lot of these things where it's people learn about all the shitty things that happened in the past, and somehow they get in their head that they need to fix the past. And it's not necessarily that it's trying to be to the betterment of everything. It's to assuage some sort of guilt. And personally, I've talked about it before. I don't understand feeling guilty for shit you had no control over and you had nothing to do with, and decisions you didn't make. You are only responsible for the decisions you make, for the actions you take, or the actions you don't take, and the decisions you allow to go past without actually grabbing the reins. You're responsible. You're just as responsible for inaction as you are for being active in something. That's where you can only be guilty about shit you were responsible for. You can only be guilty for things you were actually involved in. Feeling guilt for something you've never done and something you weren't directly involved in is stupid, and it's a waste of energy and resources. And all this divisive shit, instead of just saying, you know what, that shit was terrible and I'm not going to be like that, and leaving it at that, that is how we move forward. That is how we do better. Instead of letting the past hang around our necks like some fucking weight that keeps us hunched over and broken down, look at the past, learn from the past. Do not forget the past, or you are doomed to repeat it. We're repeating it right now. I hate to tell you this, but we are definitely, the United States in particular, at this point, we're about at the point where most empires start to fucking crumble. And people want to say the U.S. isn't an empire, but I mean society in general. The broader United States government, the ennui, the corruption, the greed, the self-interest is really reaching that critical mass. And it happens pretty much across the board. Everything from the United Kingdom and England, when it was the world superpower, had colonies all over the world and reached that critical mass and collapsed. Every major historical instance of an empire has hit that point and has collapsed. And we're doing it too. We're in the stage of collapse. We're at the point where apathy and ennui have set in, where our government has become so bloated and just worthless and parasitic, and it's getting to the point where it's going to kill the host. And particularly if things keep going the way they're going, because not everybody's willing to go peacefully, and that's how a lot of these things go. And I'm not one of these people that's saying we need to be ready, because when the shooting starts, the shit hits the fan, things are going to go sideways. But I hate to say it, they are. There are enough people that are getting fed up. There are enough people that are willing to start doing things to... Right now, it's peaceful. Right now, we're hitting them in the wall. It's because, let's face it, corporate America controls the fucking country. The politicians are puppets. The people are the fucking cattle, and corporate America is the ones holding the fucking little marionette controls. And people realize that. The thing is, there's a lot more of us than there are of them, and there's power in numbers. There is strength in having a mass of people, and we could change the world if we could all just get on the same fucking page, which is why it behooves them to keep us off the same page, to sow this division and this diversion. So you want to honor the indigenous people of this country. You want to honor all the people that got fucked over and whose lives were ruined and brutalized and destroyed. Do better. Be better. Treat each other good. Just be fucking decent human beings. It's really not that complicated. It's really not that much to fucking ask. And then the other side of that is, part of being a decent human being is knowing when to mind your fucking business and shut the fuck up. And for now, that's what I had to say.
Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms. At I Had to Say It Podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.